Meeting to order. First up today, we have Ms. Foreman from Fire Health. Welcome.
Thank you. And I'm usually loud, so if you can't hear me, let me know. At least according to my daughter, she always says, tone it down, Mom. So first, thank you for having me today. My name, as you know, is Shelley Foreman. I'm the Community Relations Regional Director for VIA Health. VIA Health is a public agency that manages state and Medicaid funds for individuals with mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities. As of July 1st, we did get the good news. We will also become what is called a tailored plan, and we will become responsible for managing the healthcare needs for people in our health plan. I always like to start by thanking the members of our regional board. Chairman Lutzen is a regional board member for VIA, and we appreciate your participation. And while I'm here, I just will remind you, you do have one more opening on the regional board. So I can get with you, Chairman Lutzen, and send you the list of folks who might be able to participate, but we'd really like to get a second person in, so Jackson County is well represented. So I'm here today, and I've been here several times on this topic. As you know, for the last several years, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services has been working to propose what they're calling a statewide child and family specialty plan Medicaid waiver. And I know that's a mouthful. And basically what the state had proposed and the General Assembly did pass in this last legislative session is a plan for there to be one single organization that would manage the needs of Medicaid children and adults in the child welfare system. It started a little more narrow, looking at kids in foster care, and it grew, I think, to be comprehensive and to integrate the care. So right now, the health plan would cover kids in foster care, other caregivers, parents, siblings, and also children and adults in the in-home program with the Department of Social Services. As this plan evolved, many of the counties, including Jackson and our region, really did want to maintain a regional approach to managing those services. But the state, in their infinite wisdom, did not agree with that, and the General Assembly did pass the statewide Medicaid waiver. I will say one of the things the General Assembly did, and our legislative members, is they ensured that within the legislation that organizations like VIA, LME-MCOs, could apply for the statewide waiver. And because of our long history and commitment to our children and families and our DSS partners, VIA did decide to work with partners, LME-MCO, to apply for the statewide waiver. And I'm here today, and I know it's short notice. We just found out in the last week or so that we could request letters of support from Board of Commissioners. So I'm here today to ask for your support in doing that. And I will, and I think it's hard to ponder, and I know Chris and I have asked, like, what will be different? I don't have a crystal ball. I don't really know what will be different, but I will tell you why I would ask for your support. We know that there are many, many challenges in the child welfare system. It has been a system that has been long overdue, I think, for support from the state. And the General Assembly in this session did some things that I think will make improvements. One, they created a study commission made up of various partners that would come together and really look at what are the systemic needs of the system, what systemic changes need to occur to improve access to care for our children and families in the system. The other thing they did is they increased funding, which was, we were very glad. We said, gosh, we've been working on a shoestring, at least what we consider a shoestring for a while. So the General Assembly did put an infusion of funding into the budget to be able to help support some of the ideas that come out of the study commission and to help develop providers in the child welfare system. And then the last thing they had done, which they hadn't done for a very long time, is they raised Medicaid rates, which I think will be helpful for any kind of provider that serves Medicaid, whether it's adults or children. And so I think that will be helpful. And they're attending to the issue. They address the needs. So what are the reasons that VIA thinks that it can do a good job in managing this? I think it will be a big task. It's a big job. But with partners and VIA working together, we do cover half of the state as it is right now. So we have a good foothold. Some of the requirements that are in the request for proposals we've been doing. We have, for the last several years, been working with our other LME MCO partners, as well as working with DSSs and our providers on the Child and Family Improvement Initiative, where we have really looked at how our organizations could streamline processes to make it easier for DSSs across the state. So some of the things they have done is to have a single referral process, statewide contracts, which we already have. We have many, many statewide contracts, especially with our residential providers. They've also done a lot to look at the rate structure, and we currently, I would say at VIA, we not only pay a very good rate for especially our residential therapeutic foster care all the way through residential care. But we're also willing to look at special cases and do more to support a child in need. Some of the other things we've done is through our Benchmarks project, we have done a lot of work with our DSSs on, we created a foster care recruitment campaign that just recently wrapped up. We've done a lot of training. We have embedded care management. We've had that for years now. I think like 10 to 15 years ago, we started out of the DSS office here having an embedded care manager. And that's a person from VIA who works in consultation and support and placements for the needs of children and families. We also have what are called single point assessments available for DSS. That is a provider organization that works directly with our DSS folks to get kids assessed. And we have a new project, which is a rapid access foster care assessment process. So if DSS is taking a child into custody, they can sort of speed up that single point assessment and get assessment outside of the scheduled time. So there are many things that I feel like we have been doing as a public agency to work with our public partners, and I know this will be a very big change for the state of North Carolina, but I'm happy to answer questions or get any feedback that you may have.
Do you think under this plan, you'll see some of the core issues with like placement of children? Some of those facilities maybe coming back to the fold because of increased rates, just increased.
I think it'll be a combination of things. I think the pandemic, and please, Chris, if you have any input, because it's not my world as far as working. So the pandemic highlighted some of the challenges. Some of the rates were so low, there are people working in residential facilities that make less than someone working at Walmart with very little benefit. I think the Medicaid rates will be improved, and I can't promise you this, but what I do hope is that with the attention on the issues at hand, and there's been a lot of attention, that maybe we'll be able to build a better system. And I think the study group is a big step in the right direction so that the Division of Social Services and the Division of Mental Health and Medicaid can come together and really look at what are the barriers to care. So we hope that. The other thing is VIA already has guaranteed statewide beds. Like there are certain facilities where we already contract, so those beds are for VIA members. But I think we'll come back in a few years and see if we see progress being made. But I think that there's a lot of spotlight on the issue now.
Additional questions from the board? Appreciate your-
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Is there a consensus? I mean, do you want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about the letter, just so that?
Sure. Just to make life easier, we try to include a template. And I know this is your work session, so I understand that you can't probably take action today, but this is just a template. You can, if you want to decide to support us, you can edit it. You can do whatever you need. It's just sometimes when you ask for something, you don't want somebody to have to create it. Although I would say, your new county manager King has been through this same thing, so he probably could. So whatever you would like to do with that letter, if you decide to vote on the support. Okay, thank you so much. Let me know if you have any additional questions.
Moving on now. Next item on the agenda, and it's CORE, Creating Outdoor Recreation Economies, and Ms. Henry.
Good afternoon. How are y'all doing?
Okay.
So I'm really excited. We, as some of you may recall, back, when did we start the MOU? It was like early last year. So about this time a year ago. And we started working with NC Commerce through their organization on the Creating Outdoor Recreation Economies. And so I'm here to introduce Ann Batts from Commerce. Excuse me. We have a group in the audience here. A lot of this is our working group members that have been a part of these conversations monthly or more than once a month conversations from the beginning of this project. And we have put together a final draft of this plan, and we have now since moved into some further work. And Ann's going to go over in more detail where we are and just give you an update on that. So this is Ann Batts.
Good afternoon. I'm always amazed at the breadth of things that you have to know something about. I learn something every time I come to a meeting. I have, although I know you have it in your packet, I have just an excerpt of the work plan, if that'd be all right. That's all right. So with slides, do I? Okay. Sorry. Oh, there we are.
Okay. And then you can just scroll your mouse. Or if you would feel better.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for having time on your agenda to listen to the results from the hard work from a lot of these wonderful, dedicated, energetic, incredibly intelligent people that are behind me. The state got some funding from EDA to do a project on creating outdoor recreation economies. And this is sort of in response to what happened to a lot of us during COVID when folks just came out in their pods and in some cases ran us over. And so this was an opportunity all across, I guess I can do a, oops, the wrong way, there we go. This was an opportunity to engage communities all across the state and in talking about outdoor recreation, not only as good physical health, but also mental, social, all of those things that we saw during COVID. So this is a program that is happening all across the state with various communities, and Jackson County was one, and also Silva. So these, Tiffany Henry was the coordinator for the process, and a very good coordinator. And then these are the good folks that participated, and they were very dedicated and had great ideas, as you will see. So, yeah, and we have more people in the audience from sort of a follow-on effort, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So we had 5 monthly meetings from March until July, and we're fortunate to have kind of this great cross section of expertise at the meetings. Um, the uh, the emphasis of this is looking at the economic impacts of outdoor recreation. And so this is a little bit different work group than is assembled for later work when they're looking more at facilities and experiences, that kind of thing. So the core, the creating outdoor recreation economies, is about asset-based community or economic development. So asset-based means we look at what is unique in a county or a community, and to pull that out and to base then an economy or build an economy around. So it's looking at a lot of small business opportunities, investment opportunities, and it's building sort of incrementally the way that our communities have always grown. So, core is building an economy around the human powered recreational activities that are undertaken in nature based environments. We had to see this so that we're not confused with this is not sort of the traditional recreation of ball fields and in some ways much more labor intensive sorts of facilities. Another really good example that you know something about because of the town of Silva is Main Street. And Main Street is asset based in that they build their economy, and it is economic revitalization around the preservation and redevelopment of their historic assets. So, all of those great buildings. So, they're using those buildings as a way of building an economy. And other assets that can be used, it can be agriculture, it can be health and wellness, it can be education, as in Jackson County, local food, lots of others. So, I'm sure you've probably heard a lot of these numbers already because this outdoor recreation has been a big topic. But outdoor recreation is huge. And I really had no idea of the impact of it until we started pulling up some of these numbers. So in the U.S., $1.1 trillion impact, 2.2% of the GDP, growing faster than the economy as a whole. In North Carolina, $14.6 billion GDP impact, or 2%, fully 2%. Employment has actually increased in outdoor recreation, and we are now at like 2.9%, almost 3% of all employees in North Carolina, 147,000 jobs. So I found after we did this study, I found this other chart. There's a group that does all kinds of outdoor recreation numbers. We put them together. So they figure the whole value added contribution, $454 billion from outdoor recreation. So this is a part that I find really interesting. Motor vehicle manufacturing. So that, running around after the Toyota plant or whatever. Their contribution, similar, GDP, 159 billion. I mean, outdoor rec's almost 3 times. That's amazing. Air transportation, 157 billion. Oil, gas, and coal, 129, even less. And the performing arts, 131 billion. So you're getting all those big concerts and music and movies and everything in outdoor rec. Amazing, just amazing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about process we used. At the very beginning, when the work got together, and I should say that one of the most important parts of this whole process is really getting the work group together. And this is what should I say, one of the magic sauces for asset-based development is getting the people who know something about the topic and have some resources to put into it all together in a room. And I think this is one of the things that we learned. I mean, we in the mountains, we do a lot of outdoor recreation. We know a lot about it. But I think through this process and also the building outdoor communities, we sort of learned that, you know what, we never really organized around it to sort of take control and decide what it was that we wanted it to do for us. So we did a little survey looking at the economic impacts. And these were the top 4 areas of impact that the group was looking for. So we're looking to help out existing businesses. We're looking to develop a skilled outdoor workforce, to potentially attract new outdoor business and industry, and also, very important, improving quality of life for full and part-time residents here. So we had a model where we looked at tourism experiences, retail, small business, manufacturing, and culture and workforce kind of through the process. All right. So we did our survey, and then we talked a lot about what are our assets. And actually, in the appendix of the whole report, you have a long list. It's huge. How many activities Jackson County supports, and how many assets there are. So, of course, there are the basics: the Blue Ridge Parkway, Nantahala Forest, Town, Roy Taylor, Great Mountains National Park, Mountains to the Sea Trail. But during this process, we found a lot of our recreating experts identified we had a lot of small gems, sort of places that were known to individual recreation groups or individual activities that the general public didn't know about, which is probably good. But that made us, in a way, an attraction for those groups. So it's kind of interesting. Just generally, some of the opportunities that we identified, because we did SWOT and all of the usual stuff that you all know how it all goes, is that we have really engaged user organizations, groups like Sorba that not only ride their bikes really hard, but they also build the trails and work hard to assemble them and take care of them. So user organizations as well as land managers. We have that huge variety of outdoor recreation activities available. The county has been really good about putting together plans and priorities, and especially the Greenway plan. I know you've been working on some of the things related to that plan. So there was a really, really good basis for a lot of this work. And especially I could thank the TDA, Nick Breedlove was here today, who provided us with their amazing survey information and results that they did just before, a year before COVID hit. So that provided us a good base of understanding. Generally, one of the, like, I don't have the numbers, but Jackson County, I found this interesting. Compared to the counties all around it, and then I stuck in Henderson as well, so Transylvania and Henderson. Jackson County by far has the most visitor spending. So really doing something right. And Nick's data shows that it's also good satisfaction from the users for coming here. So one of the real strengths is actually that quality hospitality base. So it's overnight accommodations, it's food, it's the social scene. We do that well. We also have this wonderful walkable historic downtown that folks love to come to. Challenges. And that, out of COVID, we saw that maybe there wasn't as much appreciation of our resource base as we would have liked. But in talking, we realized that that's not just visitors, but also a lot of us don't know as much as we could about the richness of what we have. Um, One of the big laments, in a way, was that we don't have the connections from the communities directly to the recreation facility. So my husband would say, "Why every time you want to go on a walk, do we have to get in the car and drive 45 minutes so we can get out and walk?" And it's that kind of, I mean, it's everywhere. It's not just here, but that was something that actually became one of our goals. Um, Also, the visitor base is a lot of families and a lot of seniors. The activities that we offer because of our terrain are very difficult. So people like me should not be ever thinking of trying to climb the side of a rock or the side of a mountain or something like that. It's way beyond anything that I would ever do. So there's a little bit of a disconnect. And so thinking about, what can we, um, how can we provide a whole range of services? Um, Also, like I said, there's nothing, well, as in with Swain County, when you think of Swain County, and it's Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and that's just what you know. And there isn't really that signature. There are lots of things, but nothing that's sort of that signature. So if someone, say, over in Chatham County, you say Jackson County, and there isn't something necessarily that's going to jump to mind on that, except maybe the old courthouse at the top of Main Street on Silva. But anyway, so so these were some of um, the challenges. Oh, and the last one is coalescing. So through this, I'm going to talk a little bit about the. Do you remember the term for the outdoor gear builders? So this is like the group of people who are manufacturing, bikes and bike bags and kayaks and stand-up paddle boards and everything that goes kind of with it. And the model for that organization was that they just got the folks together to socialize, basically. And they kept bringing them together because, boy, we're not going to share secrets. This was not going to be how it was. But as they got to know each other, they started talking about things. And eventually they realized, you know what? If we join together, we could put in a big order. We can get the bulk discount, and it helps, both of our businesses. And so things like that started to happen. Well, then they realized when they brought in the retailers and the users that the conversation just got richer. And so now the Outdoor Business Alliance. But anyway, that is an interesting model for the way to really begin to build on the existing business space to maybe expand into some other areas, whether it's outdoor gear, whether it's, other kinds of retail or experiences, whatever. So anyway, that's the one. All right. So I was hoping that maybe Jake Gottlob would be here today, but he is busy running an employment program with NC Works, and he was an intern for Tiffany during this process. And thank you to Jake. He reached out to a lot of these wonderful partners, stakeholders, many of whom did not have time to come to a meeting every month and sit and even necessarily to talk, about economic sorts of things. So this is a list of the folks that Jake talked to. Well, Jake, in some cases, I did as well. That also had input to this process. All right. So our planning process is that we try to get the group to put together, we call it an economic positioning statement. And that really is asking folks to take kind of a regional perspective. And this is getting back to sort of those assets, like what do we have that's different? Where do we fit in? Compared to all of the counties and communities around us. And then when we think about that, where do we want to be sort of 5 years out? And so that ends up being this positioning statement in blue. Jackson County is our western North Carolina home base camp in natural escape with a diverse outdoor recreation scene providing unique experiences everyone can call their own. So the little check marks down below are the pieces then that we pulled out from that to try and develop as how are we going to move this economic effort forward. And the fourth one, improving information sharing, experience planning, and targeted marketing, is foundational, critical. There are apps out there that a lot of like our hikers use that are fed by users, and they include like private land. So you could be routed over someone's private land, and you wouldn't necessarily know that you were on private land. So the whole idea of maybe controlling information got to be really important. So then we built out these four areas a little bit more to develop our work plan. So the home base camp and natural escape, some of the issues were that trail connectivity that we talked about. We also wanted to underline the importance of the Pinnacle Park planning that was going on with Silva, and a real opportunity to connect that facility up over to the other side and up to the Blue Ridge Parkway, as well as down into the town. Also to develop the Jackson County Stewardship Council. So these in this area, it's a lot about building pride and belonging. And the Stewardship Council, the idea is to bring together the resource managers and to maybe do some joint volunteer recruitment, sharing of equipment, monitoring of, calendar of events or whatever. And I am really pleased to say, so Kara McClellan from Friends of Panthertown back here just hosted the first Stewardship County or Council meeting this last week, the third. And then to encourage maybe some new some hospitality options. So it was noted that maybe, like, we don't have a national forest campground. Oh, you should see the eyes roll when you bring that up. But that's all right. I mean, it's kind of an experience that maybe we could look at. The second one, expand and develop a diverse outdoor recreation scene. And some of the things, the priorities that came up in this was that Whitewater Park at Gillsboro, that still seems to be a really important, I mean, that's what it's like. It's made to do. They call it stitches. Did you know that? If you go over it, you get stitches. So that's what I'm told. I think it's called. So Michael Despo, I think, is the one who told me that. So the expanding trail experiences for those longer, unique, sort of notable kinds of experiences falls under this one. And then convening and nurturing that outdoor social network, and that is that business, foundation of business effort. The third one is to develop unique personal experiences for all. And this one included the idea of establishing a youth council. And there are so many efforts underway in so many different organizations, from camps to parks and recreation to schools, whatever, that deal with children in nature. But put them all together, talk about what we're doing, figuring out how we can increase understanding of our natural environment, appreciating what's unique and different about it, and maybe having access to more of the experiences that the kids have. So some of those things that our visitors all do, our kids don't necessarily get to do. Sometimes the equipment's really expensive and hard to get it. So the youth council is looking at some of those issues. That also is a workforce development. If you get kids exposed and excited then there's a greater chance that they're going to be interested in working in some of our outdoor businesses, maybe starting their own. So there's, and maybe they'll stay here. That would be great too. Um, the second one under this is that family outdoor activity centers and events, and the whole idea of the family as a maybe slightly not so expertly skilled group of people that need to have experiences. And then one of the big ideas, it actually has a lot of business impact, is really developing some unique new small group experiences where they might actually go to see some of those gems, but in manageable groups that would not run over the resource and destroy it. And also would go to understand. And this is really exciting because Jackson County, with Western Carolina, as part of us, has this incredible mother lode of talent and knowledge when it comes to um, craft, nature, uh, recreation activities. I mean, just anything that they could maybe offer 3 day, long weekend activity, bring in a group of folks, maybe work with a bed and breakfast or a Verbo or somebody on something like that. So anyway, that is one of the really kind of exciting ideas that came out of this. And then information sharing, experience branding, and targeted marketing. So you already have a great brand for the county to play on and see. And we talked with Nick, and he was agreeable that maybe we could um, do something for the outdoors that falls within that, but that would target those kinds of outdoor folks. So that's really what this is about. Jake, our interviewing friend, was very excited about some kiosks, and he was thinking maybe somewhere like up in Walmart where local people go, that we could have maps and information about, there's a trailhead that's not too far from here, and you could actually hike that. But directional signage, and then that social media monitoring. Now, um, so as part of this was really fun. So while we had all these good folks, interesting folks together, we went out to look field trip to 3 river sites that the county owns. And this was an opportunity for the group to just get an idea of what the sites are like, and then did a lot of brainstorming on what happened there within the outdoor recreation sphere. So the first of the 3 sites was the Dillsboro River Park that we mentioned briefly, Stitches. Um, and the group just said, it really can't be anything else. That's what it's made to be a whitewater park. And there's been a lot of study done, probably needs to be updated, especially in light of the development of the new wave in Woodfin. But I was talking to Amy Allison about this. She used to be the EDPNC outdoor rec person, and we agreed that just because there's already one doesn't mean that there can't be another, because actually there are some economies of scale that come with that. So anyway, there also in 2009 was done a heritage park plan that had some wonderful trails and family activities proposed in it, and that seems still like a really good thing. There is a challenge in that there are not. Well, this site is both sides of the river. There are utilities over at the boat ramp, but there are not on the south side, which actually is the side in the area of land that would probably be better for hosting family for a day at the river. So a challenge. All right, the next one is the Drexel site in Whittier. And I think you all know this site very well as well. And this was, um, since we've done this study, there was Tiffany put in EDA application for a study of whether it was floodway, floodplain. Can we get that solved? And that's still kind of holding this site hostage. Um, we were told during this process, so we invited Amy Allison and also Tony Elders, so we get good floodplain information, and then later talked with an expert in water sport, and they kind of all said that this stretch of the Tuck is by far the best sort of initial contact with the Tuckasegee. It's safer, it's quieter. This would be the place where if you are going to try stand up paddleboarding or whatever, you might want to do it here. So that was kind of interesting looking at the whole river, that this was a significant sort of clip. Well, the growth went wild at this site because of that building, and you know how the roof is partially off, and there are holes front to back and whatever. Oh my gosh, that was the best thing. So there were ideas there, even to use in the short term, to do some basic cleanup, make things safe, and be able to secure it when it's not being used. But to run some informal kind of family oriented events, sort of a day at the river kind of thing, but could be movies, could be a little stage and some dancing and music. It could be ag events, especially we're sitting right there next to Darnell Farms, and so ag and food could be a big one, but it could be a great place to host events. And then with that building, oh boy, they got all excited about how we could zip line through and climbing the wall up through the roof, and all those fun things like skating maybe within or whatever. They had so many incredibly creative ideas about how to use um, a not great shape building for really, really fun stuff that would also be really good if it rains. That this is a place that you could go, you could play some sports. The kids could be wild, and it would be a big addition to our offerings. So anyway, the the last of the three is the Cullowhee River property, and I know that you've been thinking about this one. So there is that sketch plan, and actually the parcel's in blue, but a little more than that. Um, that Curve, the community group, had drawn up some plans on, and they were going to do, I think, family or some playgrounds and events and that kind of thing. Well, during our process, that we found out about that roundabout, the development of that roundabout, and that DOT is going to push it back so there would be more land closer to the river we might be able to use. And and then that starts looking like, oh my gosh, so this becomes a business retention project. So Western Carolina University. So I worked with several smaller universities, and they're facing that demographic cliff. Now, pay no attention that Western now has the highest registration numbers that they have in forever. Um, but a lot of are working to brand themselves. What's unique about us? And oh my gosh, if Western at their camps, I've always felt badly they don't have a downtown. And I mean, where are you going to buy weird ice cream and Indian clothing if you don't have a college downtown? So this offers that kind of an opportunity with that stretch of commercial to become then a waterfront downtown in a way for Western and the community. So starts to get really exciting. So the Greenway is part of this. They have Base Camp Cullowhee that rents equipment. Um, I will say when we looked at it, of course now there's funding for that notch in the dam. So that's going to increase the ability to use the water for kayaking and the like. Um, but So when I went down and was looking at the property next to the roundabout, or the waterfront, the riverfront next to the water, I realized that so the river goes straight and then it hits that bank and turns to the right. Well, we all know what that means is that it's the water is going really fast and it's really deep on that side. I'm thinking, darn, then that means that that's not going to be a place where, we want to encourage everybody to, try to get up on their paddleboard. So, um, with the purchase of the island and the land behind it, um, that is a stone beach. The the little stream that goes behind it at the mouth of it there is an incredibly popular fishing spot. So I think some of the activities, the option of activities expanded greatly, as well as the safety of use of the river in that area. So now I will apologize. So I have my professional degree is landscape architecture, so I like to draw little pictures. And so this got me all excited, just to look at that whole corridor and how exciting that could be with the greenway moving through it. The community gardens, what if Western, who does that great native plant festival, actually had a little bit of an arboretum along the creek coming in? Events, it's actually better to do events, I think, up by the roundabout because you will generate noise into the island land that you own, and it's a little bit bigger. So I think there's a whole range of opportunities there. I mean, all I really want and would ask of you is that we have some dining on the river. That's like my favorite thing, and I think there's opportunity for that there. So. I'm probably going way over the time I should be taking. So, since this time, and we've alluded to this a little bit, the draft report actually says August, and so a lot has happened since then. So, we talked about with the three sites, the EDA proposal, trying to get a read on that floodplain, the Silva planning process kind of folded into. So Bernadette Peters has been working really closely with Tiffany on putting that together. Their plan meshes beautifully. It's just that they're focusing more on the town and especially the downtown and all of the activity there. The building outdoor communities process is the good folks behind me. There's a lot more expertise there on actual facilities and activities. The Stewardship Council with Kara has started, and then you have been active in some progress maybe on Greenway connections, and I thank you for that. So, all the way. Next steps. So, this is a draft still. And it's the first time that you're seeing it. So, we want to give you opportunity to be able to make comments and give some feedback on it. And maybe by the end of the month, if that works, or however we could do, before we come back to you and say, are we good? Or, and then possible adoption so that we can really begin serious implementation. And part of that would be for you to maybe empower with the work group, maybe ask them to come report back to you a couple times a year, once a year, whatever, maybe at budget time, however that works. To think about leadership, that's the other part of what makes like Main Street really work, is that there's a person who gets up in the morning and they think about, in the case of Main Street, how am I going to make downtown the best place possible? And in this case, the person would get up and say, how can I make the outdoor recreation scene and economy the best we possibly can be, or receive the most benefit from it? So thinking about some of that, and then starting to get the partners together that are identified in that work plan or that implementation plan. So We also, through CORE, do have access to some technical assistance. So if there are studies in whatever that are appropriate for the university students and faculty to do, that we can help out with that. So, and then I'm always available, and I come without charge. So, so yes. All righty. Sorry I took so much of your time. I do tend to get kind of excited, but it's fun. It's really fun. So, any questions? Otherwise, I will let you back.
The it's a lot of information.
Yes, it is. It's dense. It'll be bedtime reading.
Yeah. um, you had another appendage, 2B and 2C.
Mhm.
So, just looking at kind of what they are is appendixes of businesses, maybe key stakeholders and the like. Um, so I was just trying to view those real quick, but what would you say is like the investment or return on investment of the impact that this would have?
So I'm going to warn you. So this BOC group back here, it's like next week, 2 weeks. They're so part of the building outdoor communities. They did some new surveys of visitors who specifically did outdoor recreation.
Right.
And they have some amazing numbers that the team is going to get in the next week so that they will be able to apply, like for a specific project. Because it depends. You can sort of predict how many users might use a new piece of trail, depending on where it is and what kind of activity. And there would come an impact, sort of a visitor impact, from that. Measuring the quality of life, though, of the kid who can now go maybe to the school without having to wait for his mom to shuttle him, is a little bit harder. So I apologize. I can't
No,
give
no.
you.
I mean, I look at it from a business. I mean, schools are great. I don't know if connections between schools and homes is the core of this project.
No.
But I mean, it'd be great if we could do that. I mean, I remember kids walking to school when I was a kid. Unfortunately, I live 10 miles away, and it snowed all the time, and I didn't want
And uphill both ways, right?
Walking in the snow.
Yeah, I hopped on a big yellow thing, and it took me where I needed to go. Um, but which is what most of our kids are doing now, anyway. So, from the business side of it, I'm really curious to see, how much expansion, what an industry that came in, like a fly fishing rod company, or how we can leverage this group to coordinate and get those companies in, bring jobs, if I could, one of my highlights, I got a Thomas & Thomas rod, worked for a fly shop,
Oh,
and I got it at cost, and they put my name on it.
wow.
So, being able to go and get something like that is a one-off that isn't available to a lot of people, but you could have something like that here in this county, and it would draw more people. And
So I don't know if this is a secret or not. I suppose this isn't the place to tell secrets, but Bernadette Peters is actually putting together an outdoor industry expo. She's doing some research right now and has a plan of doing that to begin to introduce that whole idea. And then she and Tiffany have talked about, well, do we have any space available for? But I'm hoping with that expo too, we might draw out some of those micro businesses, those guys that are doing the flies or whatever in their garage or their basement or whatever, to bring them out and up with so that Marnie Harris back here with the Small Business Center can help them to grow into something bigger.
even things like outdoor RV vans. We've talked about hosting one of those in Cashers, just because so many of them are in Cashers.
Right.
So things like that just really gin up
Yeah.
interest, and I could walk around RV shows all day. It's just
That-
it's a cheap afternoon with your child and wear them out.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
Lots of walking.
We could probably put something like that on at Drexel.
Well, I mean, it's showcasing a manufacturer's items, and you're also
Right.
getting a little bit of revenue for the space.
Yeah. I used to go through all of them at the fair.
Yes, that's where we go.
Alrighty. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Just Bass.
Thank you. And that, that's a lot of why I started in this work to begin with, is kind of what you were saying and sort of the conclusion of that. And then the next steps, that building outdoor communities. Again, this whole group and probably about 5 or 6 more that couldn't make it today are a part of those conversations. And what does that look like? What do those next steps look like? How do we brand that? What do we see as some of the challenges and opportunities? And how do we collectively kind of come together and get organized and start chipping away at those things? How do we recruit businesses in? How do we support the existing businesses? What gaps exist in the outdoor space, and how can we support those? So that's a lot of these conversations that we've been having regularly. So any other questions on that before I jump into broadband?
I'd like to direct something to Mr. Breedlove. Do you have any, if catching you off guard, but do you have any thoughts from the tourism component where this presentation we could enhance or justify, as Chairman Lesson said, bang for their buck, or what would be a good opportunity of this conversation presentation we just had? Your thoughts?
I think based on the presentation, the Dillsboro Whitewater Park would probably have the biggest draw for tourism, but also for our local residents too. And I was just thinking about the challenge of bringing power to there, and that's something we've got funding to assist with. So the funding for that's not an issue. It's just which parties need to be involved in that discussion, filling out an application, and we could fund the electricity, no problem. It's just getting a partner in there and moving that forward.
And it's water and sewer too.
Water, sewer
Yeah.
as well. So
I think power's available on the property next door, but
Water and sewer is one of the bigger costs to that one. And there's funding that's available for water and sewer infrastructure expansion, but generally that needs to be tied to job creation or capital investment. So it's sort of the chicken and the egg. We kind of have to recruit the business or what we're going to do on that site before we can go after the funding to support the infrastructure. It makes it a little bit harder to do the infrastructure first.
Right.
First thing comes to my mind, and you got a good point, was Miss Leatherman, Duke Energy. Maybe that partnership could be created, because I know they are outgoing in the community needs, and that would be ideal. Has there been any discussion? There was some discussion years ago about a company coming in and putting in something of a recreational area, and that fizzled out. But has there been any discussion on maybe trying to recruit an outdoor water company into that area?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of looking at what options do exist and what's the highest and best use of that property. And so that's part of why we took a lot of this group out that are comfortable, used to getting on the water or being outdoors, and sort of looking at what their vision of what that site could look like, knowing what we know from the previous interested party, what their plans were, and then talking to these people that are experts in their field and how can we sort of pull all of that together. There have been some people that have expressed some interest. Again, there's always challenges with that. And we need to figure out, since it's county property, what we want to see out of that piece of property.
Thank you.
Is Nantahala Outdoor Center, are y'all talking with them and sharing ideas with them?
I mean, I've had conversations with them on what they think a potential use of that site could look like. So,
They've been around for a long time. They've got a lot of knowledge.
and there needs to be some cleanup in the river, and that's another challenge with that. So back to the stitches, there are some problems inside the river, and that involves the Army Corps of Engineers and a lot of other folks that you have to bring to the table to say, what do we want to do in the water? What are the limitations of what's currently there? And what's the investment to clean that up to do what you want to do with it? It's just something that we haven't really talked to y'all about a lot about, and I think it's time for us to bring this back to you as we talk about the Greenway expansion. We talk about the Tully revitalization, Dillsboro, Jacksonville. These are all, to me, low-hanging fruit because they're already fully owned assets. And what can we do with those? And there's a lot of potential with all of them.
Any additional questions?
Can I ask this group, does anybody, my working group, have anything that you want to add?
About the cost benefit analysis. I'm Trevor Brown. I'm the outdoor rec manager with Parks and Recreation. There's several committees and boards that I'm on right now that have a lot of that stuff worked up and are soon to be making some presentations to the board, and we'll have a lot of that information soon. So
Well, I know
it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth it.
any improvement is gonna, pay off. It's just,
Right.
Where do we want the biggest bang for our buck to be initially, and then from there, how do we go?
Yeah, what's our strategy, prioritization?
Information that he was referring to, is that going to be presented to this board?
Yes,
Good.
it will. Towards the end of April? Yeah. We're good?
We can move on to broadband update.
Okay.
It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Mine too. So glad I get to do this for y'all
I
today.
can't tell you how many times somebody comes up and goes, "Man, they just put Balsam over there, and it's not at my house." And I said, "Well, did you fill out the broadband survey?" And they go, "No."
And they probably say, what?
"What are you talking about?" And I go, "Let me show you."
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Advocacy is one of the biggest components to that. So we're going to talk about broadband. It's been a little while since I've given you an update, and I just kind of wanted to hit a couple of different areas as far as the update, what is sort of on the horizon with regards to broadband. So current funded broadband projects, we have what we call the RDOF, and that's the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. And then we also, with this RDOF program, this is an FCC program. Awards were determined through a reverse auction. In Jackson County, we had a $16.9 million award that was awarded to Charter Spectrum, and that included 11,128 locations. That is a 6-year total project timeline, estimated to be completed by the first quarter of 2028. We also have the North Carolina Great Grant Program. This is a North Carolina RAND program through the North Carolina Department of Information Technology. Jackson County had 2 awards, one of which was to Charter Spectrum for 1,156 locations with the award amount of almost $4.5 million. We also had Balsam West, and that was 636 locations, and that was about $2.4 million. Both of these grants, just as a reminder, we did provide matching funds of $300,000 for each of these great grant awards. Charter, with regards to their update, their RDOF award, they have currently activated 1,223 addresses as far as the RDOF, and then they have activated 330 addresses for the Great Grant. So this map, in all of the blue that you see, that is the RDOF award locations. And I can't zoom into this map because some of that is proprietary information. They'll give me a screenshot of certain things. But you can, on the NC1 map, you can really zoom in to your address, and you can see if you're, like Chairman Langston just said, if you're across the road from where it was installed, you might fall off of an RDOF location. But that's where that survey becomes very important for those addresses. So you can see the blue is the RDOF locations. The red dots were and this is just for charter. The red dots are the Great Grant Award, and then the green is what has been activated for charter to date. So since they've started and they got those initial awards, this is what they have activated so far. And so, in large part, for those of you that don't know, charter, the furthest west they came in the state of North Carolina was Haywood County. They didn't come past Haywood County, so that's why you see on this map the way sort of the green goes. So it goes down from Balton to Silva, down Highway 74 near Dillsboro, and then along Highway 441, because they did also get awarded RDOF address points in the entire western part of the state. So they need to get through Jackson County to get to the other parts of the state. That 6-year timeline is the same for us as it is for the other counties that are west of us. So that's why you're seeing a lot of activity with charter, because they've got to get through Jackson County and start setting fiber in other parts of the western part of the state. Balkan West, their award was much later. It was actually in the fall of last year, so they're really still in the engineering development phase. But these orange dots are where their grant application was awarded. So obviously from this map, it doesn't look like there's 636 locations, but if you were to zoom way in, it would become 636 address points on their map. So the next program, let me ask you this. Do you have any questions about RDOF or GRATE before I go into CAB? Okay. So the Completing Access to Broadband Grant Program, this is the next program that is sort of eligible for us to participate in. It was kicked off in January of this year, and this is a program where the counties collaborate with the North Carolina Department of Transportation and the provider. So we will work with, if we choose to participate, we will work with the state office to come up with a scope, a project scope, and then we will look, they've already sort of vetted all of the qualified providers. We know who serves Jackson County now. It's a lot more clear than it was a couple years ago. But who are those qualified providers? And then they will compete for that project. So in this particular program, there is a max of $8 million for any project in the county. And I'm going to go, let's see. I'm going to do something else here really quick. Sorry. Because I'm going to show you a little bit of a different map. So in this one, this shows sort of the matching fund requirement. It is tied to the amount of ARPA dollars that our county received. And so since we received more than $8 million of ARPA funds, we, as a county, our responsibility is at least 35% of the total grant award. The state responsibility is up to 35%, and then the service provider is up to 30%. So you could almost just say it's a third, a third, a third. It's kind of how it's going to sort of roll out. Our responsibility is at least 35% of that. And here is sort of an example of what that could look like if we had, obviously this is just a random example. This was something that the state provided. So because of the ARPA dollars, over $8 million, if there was a project, we would 30% service provider, 35% the county, state 35%. So it kind of gives you some breakdown of what that looks like. And then when we look at the eligibility for Jackson County, we have the RDOF that's already been awarded. We can't touch any of those locations. The great grants that have been awarded, we can't touch any of those locations either. So what remains is 4,675 total eligible locations for a project. We're kind of, when you look at the map, we're kind of getting to what we refer to often as the middle or the last mile in some of the areas. or it's harder to reach. So it's going to cost a little bit more for us to start to reach with some of these projects. And this gives you an overview of what the CAB eligible funding is, all of the locations for Jackson County. So this is that 4,675 locations. So you can see they're very scattered. We have asked the state office if we have multiple providers, could we do that? Could we have multiple grants out there to two different ISPs? Yes, we can do that and have basically two different contracts. They don't like to do that, but they said that we can do that. And when we look at some of these maps, we can kind of see the providers are going to be very different depending on what our priorities are. And then this is a map that shows basically that blue map I showed you a minute ago. So that's all of these sort of straight lines. That's the RDOF. This purple up in here. This is eligible areas. These green dots. This is the charter Great Grant Application Award. The yellow is the Boston West Great Grant Award. And so you can see over here on the bottom left hand of this one, that's that 4,675 total locations. It's showing that we have 17.45% after all of these awards have been activated. We will still be at 17.45% unserved of our households in Jackson County. So even though there's a lot that's already been invested, this is just kind of showing you what will remain. And so for us, next steps is they're already starting this work with other counties. It's the Board of Commissioners for you guys to decide if you want to provide a match to participate and what does it look like. So we would provide, there's a template that the state has given us to identify an up to amount. So we could say we can match or we will match up to whatever dollar amount that is. And once that match is determined, then we can start to calculate and sort of figure out, based on the cost per passing, density of locations, where that application will go and what that project can look like. Work on the scope and publish an RFP, and then the providers will then submit what they can do for that project. So we basically can say, these are the address points that we want to serve this application, and then the provider can say, here's what it will cost. And they also know the guidelines. They know we're over $8 million. They know what their match requirement would be going into it. So that might eliminate some providers based on where it's at. So we'll have to work through that a little bit. One other thing, if we decide to do this, the county needs to identify up to 2 representatives to serve on the evaluation team and review the responses from that RFP. They'll do that in conjunction with the NCDIT office. And also important to note that the funds will only be utilized if the grant is awarded and the final agreement has been executed. I do want to show you one other thing. So I'm working on with another grant program to kind of help me behind the scenes with some of this. I can't on this map, I'm sorry, I can't move the blue dots. Those are our vertical assets in the county. But the yellow that you can see is the address points that are eligible for this CAB program. So that is all those 4,000 address points. And the green, and you can kind of zoom in, for example, I'm just going to zoom in here. If we were to provide a $500,000 match, this is what that application or that project could look like. It could serve this community here and over here. We are working on, because they included some of this that's near and on the koala boundary, we would have to remove because we can't do that because it's on the koala boundary. So we'll work through that. It's kind of complicated because the FCC, they actually look at county lines, county boundaries exclusively. They don't look at the koala boundary. They don't take that out. So there's a lot of work that we have to do that's in the county boundary, but then we also have to share and work with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians for the Qualla boundary stuff. So this just kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. And then here's a little bit of a different map. All of this yellow is where those cab locations are.
Why so much in Silva?
It's, yeah, well, because they're underserved.
Underserved.
They're not unserved in all locations. They're
It might be a
underserved.
different provider than.
There are a lot of frontier locations. And you can kind of see when you look at, I can hover over some of this, and on the right hand side of the screen, you can see the providers where some of them are in that census block. And you'll see the type of technology, the copper wire, the coax, that is not up to the new SEC standard. It needs to be fiber to the home and higher speed. And the only other thing that I was going to say, sort of also next steps, once you guys talk about what that participation might look like. But again, going back to the broadband survey, that is on our homepage. Please fill out that survey. That continues to be very critical. There's the North Carolina broadband homepage. I've linked that here. The NC1 map that I've talked about. I've also linked that here on this presentation. And I am also working on the landing page that is specific to Jackson County. So when a resident says, I saw Boston West across the road, how do I know when they're lighting up my location? And I get those calls. I probably get a dozen to 15 of those a week. Either that or somebody tore up my driveway or ran out of the road. And so I get a lot of those calls. And this homepage will sort of help people understand who to reach out to. If they've not filled out a survey, here's where it's at. If they are a Charter hard-off address point, there is a link that they can go directly to Charter's website and put in their address, and it will say your address is eligible or it's not, but as soon as it becomes available, put in your contact information and we'll contact you. And they've done a really great job of that. I've also talked to Boston West about doing that, shared that page with them, and I've encouraged them to do the same thing, and they're looking into doing that as well. So I'm hoping that will allow our citizens to have a better understanding of when they're eligible and when they can activate those sites.
I'm in the same situation. Spectrum's 100 yards on a phone pole from my house, and they say, "Nope, sorry, you're out of the area."
And a lot of it is if, for example, you are that close to it, there are regulations, FCC regulations that won't allow them to get to you within a certain number of feet until they've fulfilled all of their ARDA activations. Once they do, they can come back and they can extend.
That's what the local engineer when he was up to there.
Yeah.
Has and this is just something I've heard. There's been some delays from Duke's allowing them to attach to poles.
So there is another sort of legislative priority, and this is part of that ARPA funds that included TAB and GRADE. And there'll be some other ones, but it's what they call make-ready poles replacement. And Duke is working on, because again, this is statewide, but they're dealing with this as well. And so they have just really implemented some new procedures that the providers, when they need, it's that pecking order. So it's the power, it's the telecommunications, your phone, and then it's your internet. And they have to be so many feet apart. And so when you have, for example, when we had this at the tag office, Optimum already serves the tag office. Well, we needed one more, but then that didn't give us enough clearance. So we needed to replace the pole and make it taller so that once the next provider went onto that pole, they had enough clearance. So working through those kinks, but there is funding for those pole replacements. It's just nothing is as quick as we want it to be.
I know one community that I think they had to clear every tree and then they had to replace every pole in order to get the fiber. It was, they're still working on it. It's wild.
And you're seeing a lot of Duke come in and clean those lines up because they're seeing this is, they know. I mean, they're getting this attitude.
So see the pouring machines around town, they're all over the place.
And in some cases, it's more reliable and cost effective for them to bore it underground. And in some cases, they'll attach. But if it's going to take too long for them to get that pole replaced, it may be easier or quicker for them to go underground. It just depends on the area.
It was on the area too. They ran into base rock.
Yep.
On my house, and it's like 2 weeks later, they're like, "Yeah, we're just gonna run out of poles."
Yeah. Yeah.
Ms. Henry, has there been an attempt of public service announcements regarding this survey in the media?
There has. I haven't done it real recent because I'm trying to get that landing page up and running before I do that, so I can include it with it. Because I think that'll be probably more valuable than a please take a broadband survey. Because I think that, and at least based on the questions that I'm getting on a regular basis and the phone calls I'm getting.
And another question on earlier topic, the outdoor recreation economics. You made a comment about cleaning up the river that area. What items were we talking about? Material to clean in that section of the river, Tuckasegee.
Which area? Are we talking about Pelly or Dillsboro?
Dillsboro Dam.
Dillsboro Dam. There's a lot of debris and rebar and some other stuff, and
From the dam removal.
Okay.
I would say some of these folks may know more specifics about the material that's been found. There is.
Had to clean that up when they removed the dam.
Some of it was.
It's mostly cleaned up, but if you wipe out there, it's a pretty rough ride. Andrew.
You will get stitches.
Because I won't be out there.
Is there any way we can figure out those spots and get Duke to pay for it?
I doubt we'll get Duke to pay for it, but
Are they liable if there's an injury?
no, I don't think
I
so.
thought that was,
Since they were supposed to clean it up before,
yeah, I thought that was part of it.
If it wasn't done, then
I don't know the history on that specifics.
I know a little bit about it because I've lost once already with Duke as a commissioner. We tried to prevent that dam from going out at that time, and we were not successful.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of people that just left that probably could have answered that a little bit more specifically. But
Maybe find out what, how much rebar, what concrete's in there, I think.
well, and we did. So one of the things that Ann was referring to on that particular site was the Heritage Park plan, right? I'm looking at Mike Hopkins and Trevor because this was something that was kind of done with Rusty at Parks and Rec that kind of had done some evaluation, and so we have that, and I'll be happy to get that to you because we do have that study that looks a little bit deeper, both in the river but also on the sides of the river, what could potentially go there, what's the cost associated with getting any of that there. So we have some of that information we can share with you.
Please, because I think what Mr. Breedlove said is very viable, that project is one that could be a cost benefit. And
Absolutely.
recreational, there's so much opportunity there.
Right.
EPA have to get involved again. I know they did the first time because of the mussels downstream of the dam.
probably.
Some of that's in that study as well.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering if they have to come in again if they come back to clean it up more, or whoever cleans it up. Is that going to be another issue?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't looked at that study in the last probably month or two, so I can't give you the specifics on it, but there is a lot of detailed information in that. I'll share that with you. And so I would just ask for you to consider what, if any, if you want to participate in that cab, because we do need to let Raleigh know if we want to participate in that so that they know we are a county that wants to and what that dollar amount might look like, because they also will have to participate and provide matching funds. So they're trying to budget as well.
What kind of money do we have left in the ARPA funds currently?
There's a little over $2 million now.
So we wouldn't have enough.
Well, and there, you know, keep in mind there's another federal program called BEAD. They are really just basically what happened with that program. The state had to apply to the federal government for that BEAD funding, so they had to provide them with a plan, and it is multi-layered and phased. That is getting access to everybody. That's the 100% connectivity plan. And so HAB is first. We have to exhaust those funds because that's ARPA. And then the stopgap will be another smaller. I envision that one be becoming some fixed wireless solutions to some homes. And then we'll have the BEAD funding. There is speculation that there will not be match funding required for BEAD, but we don't know that yet.
BEED?
BEAD. And don't ask me what that stands for right now. I can't remember.
What's that stand for?
BEAD.
No, I think it's, we've been successful in getting just almost 2,000 homes hooked up to broadband. And that's, I believe, a goal of all 5 of us, as we discussed in all of our campaigns and comments. And I think whatever funding matching that we need on a designated area of the county, I think it'd be worth every penny. It's just my opinion.
Broadband's my livelihood, so
Yeah.
without that, I'm broke.
Well, and I mean, that so many people work from home and depend on it,
Yeah,
and our
that's-
kids need it for school.
I've been working from home for 12 years, so.
I just hooked to Spectrum
Did you?
this week sometime, so it's been a big help at my house. We only could hook to Frontier there, so
That's a win. And I will say that a lot of, Charter, what a lot of that was, at least over the last, 6-8 months, was sort of the backbone. Now they've got the backbone, and now you'll start to see a lot of that balloon out. And they've given me, they're supposed to be giving me some projections on what they anticipate that looking like by the end of this year. They didn't get it to me before today, but I do anticipate that being very large. When you go back up to this map up here, you see this corridor going from Haywood County kind of to Macon and then back up towards Swain. What we don't see is the bottom half, and that's where I want to see some movement when we come down in here. And so I think we're going to continue to see these areas blow up. Boston West is going to start to serve their part, and they've done, a fair amount in the southern end of the county. Optimum is also, making some waves over in this area of the county and down in here. So there's a lot of movement, and what I hope you're going to also see is options, and it's going to make these providers be more responsive to the end user, and
Competitive pricing.
it will be competitive, but I also think that it'll make them step up and provide the service that they're promising.
I have Optimum now, it's 400 meg, but I'd like to have the gig fiber Spectrum.
I don't mean to jump back to the other one, but the outdoor recreation. But has anyone been in contact with? Is that in Dillsboro city limits down there, the Dillsboro property?
It's just outside of Dillsboro city
Okay.
limits.
I didn't know if anybody had been in contact with Dillsboro to see what they were, what their wishes were. I know it's just outside, but it's going to be beneficial.
Yeah. Well, we have. I've been, talking with the mayor and a couple of
Yeah.
others. So, David Gates is a board member, but he's also on my business and industry advisory board. So, we have had some of those conversations.
Somebody contact me several months ago, they wanted to actually buy that property and put an RV park there. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that's.
Highest and best use. That's what that's what I always say. What's the highest and best use of that property? And when you're on a river like that, it would be a shame to not take advantage of that.
I think, I don't want to name any names, but I believe somebody's putting in an RV park just out the road from there, so,
Yeah, it was probably the same.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I believe that project be very beneficial for Dillsboro and Jackson County, whatever it may be.
Any movement from Frontier on their fiber?
We have had some conversations, and I'm continuing to push that envelope. They have expressed they are an eligible provider with CAB. They did win a great grant award in Macon County, so they do have interest in investing in Jackson County. I think it will depend on what a CAB project looks like as to whether or not they will participate in that.
I thought I got an email from them that's saying that they were looking at applying to this new one for fiber.
Yes, they did reach out. I've had conversations with Allison a few times already, but I've given her some homework on some areas that are a concern. For example, Little Canada Fire Department and some other areas. So I need her to help me fix that before we start talking about the other
Those
stuff.
areas there are
Mhm.
the toughest to
Mhm.
get into because of the bedrock.
Right.
So.
I agree with Commissioner Jones that, we've gone this far, we might as well just see it on out.
Well, I think the more trunk lines we have installed, the faster it's going to move towards the outside of the county. So
Right.
it's only going to get better and be more financially feasible for them to move those lines.
See, I have a different topic question. What's Miss Bass's title with the Department of Commerce?
It's a long title. I don't know.
It is the ARC Community Economic Development Planner. But depending on how far back you remember when we first got the prosperity zones, it's basically on the Western Region Prosperity Zone Planner.
Appreciate your enthusiasm during your presentation.
She gets excited.
I'm very excited. I'm actually pretty excited about your enthusiasm for Dillsboro here. To do something, the funding is.
We go after some ARC funding too.
Yeah. Just money.
Yeah. We can use it like the rest of them. Right? Put it to work in Jackson County. So I guess I just need you guys to let me know with regards to if you want to participate, if you want, I guess, put that on the agenda for sometime in the future.
When does the state need to know?
They've not given us a deadline per se, but they have already been sending out communications with the counties.
I think we definitely want to participate. It's just at what level?
What level
Based
and-
on the ARPA funds and other budgetary concerns.
Mm-hmm.
I would think it's consensus of the board to, same as Fox, if you can see where we're at with that and kind of
Wave your wand.
we'd be ready to go. So
Okay. All right.
what's remaining and what's allocated in the budget already and go from there.
Thank you.
And right on cue, Ms. Fox, with our fiscal year 24-25 budget.
Yeah, summary of some of our requests that we received. And this is a non-profit grant application.
Okay.
Instead of no.
Awesome. This is even better. I'm telling you.
Moving up.
Yeah. Yeah, you can
plug her right in. Look at Darlene go.
Hell yeah. This is much better than that 5-inch notebook.
It is. Kevin got one of those.
Oh,
Yeah, what?
we're gonna have to have a discussion on how to use these now.
Yeah.
Really?
They're simple. They're simple.
Throw it out like that.
Oh. I'm technology challenged, you know that, right?
That's pretty nice.
I'll go over a few of the capital items first. We just received the requests in, some of them as late as last week. So the capital items, the total equipment that's been requested from the departments is $3,115,820. The capital improvement items, the general fund amount is $1,316,299. The conservation, preservation, recreation fund, we had requests of $3,092,400, and the greenway fund, a request of $140,000. And the next item is personnel request, and I just took the requests that were received, I put it together. When we start our budget meetings with the departments, we'll revise these as needed.
Okay.
And the total amount of the request for new positions, reclassifications, is $1,315,466. That's above what it will cost for the step and the cost of living increase. Then the nonprofit grant applications we received to date, $2,152,467. $1,500,000 of that's from Mountain Projects for the Webster Village Partnership. And you have all of those on the hard drive. I do have some that I haven't received, had conversations with them, and they are planning on turning in some of those. So we'll keep these updated for you. And then I also put the budget calendar in the package, so you'll have that for easy reference.
What's the reflection of inspiration?
It's a new program, and it helps in the community. I don't have the exact description on it, but it is in that application package.
And this has all the information of each of these requests.
It does.
You know,
It does.
okay. And that the reason this number is 2.1 million so high is because that Mountain Project's 1.5.
That's correct.
Normally it's about 600-ish, well, 600 plus what we generally give out.
That's correct.
Okay.
Jackson County Homeless Program gets $200,000. They use all that?
The current year is $165,225, and they will use all of that.
Here. The HERE program.
Yes, the HERE program.
I have a question for Chris, being he's sitting here.
Okay.
The two new positions,
Yes.
because, you know, who Christie is, I know that you were accepted into the START program.
Correct.
Is one of those positions going to be for that?
Supervisor and one of the social work positions, correct, would be able to be
I
paid.
just want to make sure that, or that was going to be an additional request later or whatever.
No, I was going to request it either way, but now that we've been accepted into the START program, those will be able to be funded so long as they're used to support that program.
Okay, and those are not actually funded through the social work program or with the state, right? That's a different, it comes out of a different budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it'll be coded to a different
you know.
Right. They aren't really social workers. They're
Right.
Right, okay.
But there'll be funding separate for those programs.
didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's
You were sitting here.
That's fine. Yeah, I didn't know if I would have any questions about the VIA request or anything like that too. So, we work a lot with them. So,
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Fox, I think me and you'd been in discussion, I think I might have mentioned it to the chairman, about, and you'll have to remind me what it's called, but the funds that we have set aside for the community buildings.
Yes, we have it under community development.
And did we keep that the same this year, or are we able to?
We're starting to work on that now.
Okay, all right. And also on the, had a question as of Friday, because I went to license plate agency. I thought that we only approved 2 positions there.
We did.
And I asked who the manager was, and they said that Sherman had got the manager's position. So how did that? Did we have to reclassify?
We reclassified Sherman as the manager.
Okay.
And we're taking 15% out of license plate agency to cover that manager duties, but he's continuing to do his original tax duties.
Okay. And so those 2 positions are the same pay grade, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
They're on different steps because of the years of service.
Right. So they're asking for another technician, I see.
That's the request.
It was right at closing time. Yeah.
Oh, I went in the middle of the day last Thursday, Friday maybe, and there was probably 4 people in line. I was the 4th one in line. And it moved pretty quick.
They do a good job. They've always
Yeah.
done a good job by getting people through. Yeah. I understand that, the ladies need vacation time and stuff, but it seems like maybe, I don't know, there's other ways to do it other than putting another position in, having 3 plus the manager sitting there all day. So, but don't get me wrong, now they do a lot of work and I appreciate what they do.
But just keep in mind, these are the requests.
Right, no, yeah.
Kevin and I'll start our meetings with the departments next week and go over all their requests.
I like the way that's laid out better than their old offices.
Oh, it's
Because
nice out there.
they were in the back and you come in and it's like, it might be 2 or 3 minutes before somebody decided to get up out of their desk and walk up front where you see you. But
Yeah, I've heard, sorry.
yeah, but they're right there all the time now. So you walk in,
They're available.
somebody's there and, not wondering whether somebody's there.
I've heard nothing but good comments about, the job that they're doing. So I don't mean that at all. They're doing a fantastic job.
They like their new gigs because I've known Janie forever.
Okay.
Well, since I've been down here, they like their new gigs. And I guess it's a little bit different of a software course. We didn't do it. That's a state.
That's a state
What
system.
they had, and so they're getting used to some of the new stuff that's in there. But they're doing good.
Ms. Fox, did you or Mr. King see this Caney Fork request for their community center?
We just got it right before the meeting.
Okay.
I think Todd's going to bring that up.
Yeah. And
That's my apologies for.
And just for quick reference, you said this doesn't include step increases, or this does?
that's it. This is above the step increase.
Okay. So step is already factored in.
It is,
And any increases in grade.
yes. Any other questions?
Can you show me how to use this?
Well,
It's just like a regular flash drive. You just open it.
do those have a
You just open it and just insert that,
Regular
just like
USB
you would a
port.
flash drive.
So like into your
USB?
computer, I don't think they have USB ports.
You have to
No,
use
it had to be a regular computer.
If you don't have a computer.
Oh, man.
I don't. No.
Well,
I can give you a book.
Yeah, should print you a
That's not
book.
the same thing that's in here, Darlene?
No, it's that big book.
No?
Charity.
The big book
okay,
with all
okay.
the,
Which I
Well,
brought
good,
in
I'm
my
glad
car.
you did this, save paper.
yeah. All right, and with that, I'll
I couldn't figure it out.
turn this over to other business. We do have a Caney Fork letter to us. So I'll let Todd kind of talk about that.
This, into the port that's on there, you can buy a little adapter.
I don't see a port on here.
Oh, right.
It's a charging
Oh,
port.
the charging port, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know that.
And actually Kelly might be able to get you one. She may have one.
For the iPad?
Yeah, to convert it to this.
I got you.
All right, so I apologize for not getting this to us sooner. Kristen Stevens, the president of the Caney Fork Community Building, reached out to me and was expressing that they're not gonna be able to get by with their bills this year, and you can tell down in the description of how it's gone up over the past few years. They're doing, I'm not gonna read it word for word, but they do all kinds of fundraisers every year to make ends meet. So what they're hoping for and asking for from us is $6,000 to help with bills and everything.
Mr. Commissioner and Todd, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the $6,000 for the Caney Fork Community Development. So,
Just have to put it on consensus and then
and then we got
we vote next
Oh,
week.
all right, okay, yeah, all right.
But they do a lot up there. But yeah,
I know there's some other requests in community buildings
Yeah.
too, but we haven't got any details.
and I think this one, the reason that, and another reason why I put this in and other business today is because they're in need. I mean, they're running out of money they're going to have to close the doors if they don't get the money. Now I know that it don't go into detail of what their bills are, but I think $6,000 is not all that much, as much as they do for that community there.
I'm in agreement. And one time we gave a request, granted a request for the Glenville Community Center, and we structured it so that it was a one-time deal. So then my question would be, what can they do to be in a better position next year? And I'll forward the request, but I just kind of want to make sure.
And I've seen stuff like I stopped at what's the Caney Fork General Store today, and they had some flyers up for different events. So I think they're realizing that the bills are increasing a little faster than they thought, and are trying to catch up on that. Like there's I think a poor man's supper with pintos and cornbread and cabbage,
Yep,
and it's this weekend.
yep, this weekend.
So
And yeah, as far as fundraisers, them and Little Canada, which Cullowhee does a lot too, but they do a lot of fundraisers and stuff and help the community there too, food boxes and everything. But
Just gonna help them with a step up, that's.
yeah, and that's what I had brought up with Darlene, or what I brought up earlier, was maybe we need to revisit that allocation or
We currently allocate $1,500 for each CDC.
maybe we need to revisit that with Duke Energy. We all know how the bills have gone up for power. Maybe we need to revisit that and take that up just a little bit, just to maybe ease some. After this, and there's others coming in too that I've been contacted about. I won't get off on all that, but another community building for requests. But I don't have problem with giving these community buildings money because they do so much for
A lot of them do a lot of
Jackson
things
County.
for the community as well as, a lot of them do double duty as
Absolutely.
polling centers or, voting centers. And, it's
We
like,
do have $6,425 available for CDC improvements. You want to allocate that for this $6,000.
I think that would be.
And that's from last year, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
I think we could probably do that. So let's go ahead and have that on the agenda for next week, and we can go ahead and get them something to help.
Got your wheels up.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Start anew.
Little jump start.
Yeah, going forward, I think maybe we could reach out to all of the community buildings and see, what their needs are, and that can give us an idea of how much we need to increase that allocation.
It might not be the same in every one
Right,
of them.
but we can do like an average.
Yeah.
Some of them are rarely used, and some of them are something going on all the time.
Which
Like
takes the power bill.
the Willits community building, it's sitting there, I'm not sure how much it's used, never seen anybody there, so.
Are they required to provide like a financial statement, a balance sheet or something? Okay.
No, several of them have requested funds from the state through Mike Clanton, and he's got them
Yeah.
some funds and money and stuff, so. One of the requests is, that will be coming in, is to provide some matching funds for what the state funded, but that's a.
While we're talking about community centers and in support of, I'm sure Mr. King and Ms. Fox have collaborated about the Canada Fire Department / Community Center, which is going to take some major funding
Yes.
to get that up to the next 40 years for the fire department and utilize that community center for the public. So I wanted to, don't be shocked when we finally get that bill, because it's going to take some engineering, and it's going to be expensive, but it'll take that District 4 Canada community 40 years into the future of their fire needs. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any additional business today? Not, I'd like to welcome Mr. King to his first meeting. Hope it was as exciting as you thought it was going to be.
It was very exciting. I've been very excited about getting here finally, and so I hope that I just want to thank y'all for giving me the opportunity, and look forward to working with the great folks in Jackson County. And so far, I've been here a day. It's as expected. You've got a wonderful staff. You have a great treasurer right here. So, and there, and here. I don't want to leave out anybody, but I'm looking forward to getting more acclimated to the county and working our way through the budget process. And anyway, anything I can do, please let me know.
We definitely have some good folks working in the county.
And I've had, thank you for your effort in going by various departments. I had some county employees contact me and were pleasantly surprised that you showed up and had interest and questions, and so thank you for that. That's a good way to start.
And actually, I was surprised, one of the guys, maintenance department, grounds maintenance, come up to me, it's like, yeah, the new county manager come by, and I was like, well, he hadn't even started yet, so he's doing that on his own time. Because that was like 2 weeks ago.
Huh.
You know.
Wow.
So I was like, he must be taking vacation and doing stuff on his own time. So thank you for that.
Looking forward to working with you.
Yep.
If no other business, I'll seek a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. None opposed, we are adjourned.